All right, gents and ladies, let's continue. Uh, so what I was trying to pull up earlier was like how I would quickly note my SBA thing if I were doing it. You know, formal structure, 6 plus 2 bars, 16 plus 16, very simple. The song is very strophic. So formal structure is basically that. Let's go down. Let's scroll down. Textural features, the song is mainly homophonic. There's correlation between the lead vocals and the horns, etc. I know the standard abbreviations, lead vocals. These are notes for myself that I would be using, but I would tend to ask them to, use the standard lead vocal anything. Yeah, Philip? No, it's not necessary for the Walmart. And I'm glad Philip is bringing that up again. Remember, this is my structure that helps me to teach and helps them to understand when they come to the arrangement and the composition. And then later on in paper 1, when they have to look at phrases and things, they hear things and they have to like draw the phrases and things like that in the multiple choice. This becomes important because listening and appraising is really it has the greatest rate of failure for Barbados and the Caribbean at CSEC. That paper, listening and appraising. So the more we can do it, trust me, the better I think our results will be. Let's scroll. We're going to scroll down some more. I want to get to rhythmic and harmonic features. Right, so expressive features, we went through those. Melodic features. Right, so my thing with melodic features now, I asked the guys to go and find the first note. Da, 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 da. So, la da 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 da. They would have begun on a G. I would get the children to start writing out the letters. Go, pum, 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 pum. I'm using the app on the phone too. The piano app on the phone. All the students should download the piano app, free, and the metronome. So they find the first few notes, right? And because later on, I'm going to put it on the staff. And I know that the problem will be actual notation. They will get the pitches, but you see them rhythms in cut time. Them rhythms in cut time, even for big men, are sometimes challenging. So that is where we as teachers can assist. Yes, sir. Graphic notation. It is in the syllabus. Ask the question again so that everybody can hear.
Well, let me put it differently. I use graphic notation. So I get away from the staff notation and they just follow the counter, the melody up and down, repeating notes and what's not. Done with that.
It works. It is very much allowed.
Using dots, yeah.
And the graphic notation, you should really get the students into it because it does come in paper 1. It always comes in paper 1. When I was looking at the rhythmic features, ta 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 ta, you have that repetitive motive coming, right? So you can mention that. That is a repetitive rhythmic motive. Ta ta ta. That is syncopated, and then you put the things to it, the pitches to it, and then I would actually go and put the chords. So when I scroll down now, I'm saying, okay, when you started on a G, which is the median of the key. So once they found the thing, I asked them to try to find the home note, i.e., what's the key of this piece. You come up with E flat, so you can could have said in the melodic features, it begins on a median. The intervals are within an octave or whatever. It moves mainly by step or by leap or whatever intervals they are. And that is the way to really get your melodic features down. And when you now come to your harmonic features, ta da 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 da. Then you go to the 4, ta da 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 da. Then back to 1, ta da 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 5. When you get to that 5, that says something. It is an imperfect cadence. Has gone from chord 1 to chord 5. So you start, you show the chord structure. And I would actually show this chord structure. I would put chords above the notation that was there. And then repeated. Then 5 to 1, showing that there is a perfect cadence there. But then what happens at the end of that phrase? Oi, oi, oi. That E flat 7. E flat 7 is a non-diatonic chord. Don't forget, if it were chord 1-7, it would be E flat major 7. The mere flat that is E flat 7, it suggests that it is a secondary dominant. It is 5-7 of 4. The children may not be at that level. But for us, no. Ronald, when Ronald was doing his CXC, Ronald was a core dog. You get some men that thing. You get one every year. Sometimes these may come and do some ignorant chord things. Like when he did his composition, the man was really, it was COVID and the man was experimenting with nonsense, right? The man said, but I was watching a movie and somebody was ice skating and they started to fall. And the music didn't seem to have a tonal center. He said the music was just like it was falling. It was falling forever. So I told him, listen a little, man, they just use any whole tone scale. If they use the whole tone scale, and I mean, Corleano was about that there, so in our time, if you use the whole tone scale, you're basically using augmented chords, right? Augmented triads. So it has no real tonal center. And he then did a section of his beautiful Barbados to represent the coronavirus using augmented triads. My question, he got a B for that profile. So my question was, whoever marked that, I don't think they could understand that concept at that level. So I feel as you, Dave. I think so. We get, that's the important thing, you write up. That's why I gave all the forms there, so, and we will go through some forms in a few minutes, right? Yeah, Joel.
In the harmonic features you're talking about here with the chords, you can also mention chord types as major, minor, that type of thing that's also in the syllabus.
Yes.
So not just the fact that it's chord 1 to chord 2, but chord types. Are they major chords? Are they minor chords? That type of thing.
All right. Okay. Go. That's it. I thought I had typed it in. Actually, that's what I do to. He uses mainly primary triads, right? With chords 1, 4, and 5 in here, which will be major chords. And the only chord that's sticking out there is that secondary dominant, right? So it is not as difficult as we would want to make it out to be to do the CXC thing. So those of you whose schools are not yet doing the CXC, I think Ersley is not yet doing it. Trust me, it ain't hard. They have 2 years to get the SBA right. You go, you get the instrumentation, boss man. There's some more instruments you need to put in. Listen here, listen there. But look, watch the video. He says, you see Punka there playing a cowbell? Put it in until he gets it right. Textural features right down the line. He gets a good SBA. Out of 30, make sure they're getting above 25. But let them do the work. Don't do the work for them. and then let the performances be correct. And once that happens, boom.
Yeah, question. When we're looking at the melodic features and the harmonic features of the piece that the child is doing for the SBA, right?
Uh-huh.
How big of an excerpt are we examining, and does the melodic and the harmonic feature are we looking at two different excerpts? Are we taking the same excerpt and breaking that down for continuity?
Let's say you're doing 3 songs.
Right.
You want to show melodic features and harmonic features of 3 different pieces, right? So my thing is, I choose a section that is interesting. Let's say I say in the verse of something happening, the melody is da 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 da, and I don't have to analyze the whole melody. The melody moves mainly by step or by leaps or whatever, and then you can say in contrast in the chorus, no, it does this. But 1 or 2 sentences. In the harmonic features, I concentrate on the chords of a small section and a few cadences.
And so you wouldn't choose one section to talk about the melodic feature and then another section to talk about the harmonic feature, or you could do that as well. I'm just talking about common practice.
Common practice is choose a section that's interesting.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Right? Discuss a section. That's it. Yeah, Joel.
Once your child can actually identify, as opposed to just saying there's a cadence or there's this and that, they can actually identify when the examiner or the moderator come in to check it. They can identify that the child is correct, be able to identify where in the music it is. You don't have a problem. So if you just want, just deal with just the verse, right? Everything, melodic and harmonic. Once your child can identify, don't just say there's a cadence, don't just say there's a this, there's a that. Say where. In the past, I've had students who either can do like what Mr. Farley has here, had the chord progression written out, or they recognize the cadence falls on a particular lyric. On this particular lyric in the cell, I can hear a cadence in the chorus, and it sounds like a perfect cadence. Once you can actually identify, don't just say this in the music, because when you say it's in music, it's very vague. Musicians might identify it, but actually really identify it.
At the end of the chorus, there's a
exactly. You have to state where.
Yeah.
And not to know the children write one, nothing on the score, then produce the score. It almost like an essay written.
Correct.
But you can actually follow and identify. Got to give the child the marks.
Remember that today we are here preaching to the converted in most cases, but for the faint at heart who are reluctant to embrace this thing, this is to demystify this whole thing about CXC music. Is there anybody in here today, based on this SBA, that feel that this SBA thing hard? I think that the CXC syllabus does encapsulate a lot of music. It shows you that you have competence in a little arranging, a little composition, a little listening, and things like that. So what we've done with our syllabus here at St. Leonard's, we break it down into 3 sections: musicianship, performance, listening, and appraising. So from first form, we deal with we play music appreciation, yeah? But they go identify the genre. LIAP, genre, instrument families, and meter. In second form, you add to that. In third form, you add to that. So that by the time they choose music in fourth form, right, they have a basis to start the SBA with. We just went through genre, right? They all know that something happening is a soca. Tell them to write genre. This is a soca song. Boom. That's 1 mark, 1 out of 30. Yeah, Marlon.
I'm glad you mentioned the read and write thing. And this ain't got nothing to do with COVID and seeing I and you and thing in terms of social media trends. I spent a lot of time just more or less correcting the grammar that students use. Is that okay?
You are civil. That's what the teacher is there for.
We're just saying, I know what you want, but listen carefully. You run the risk of, you say, no, I want you to express it in this way. Okay, so what you want to say, okay, well, maybe you want to say it this way. So is that the question that he's asking, or you ended up writing the SBA as well? Go ahead.
So in my case, why did I ask them to record it? I took my cell phone at that time, I think.
Record it.
The answers verbally. Say what you want to
Okay.
express, right? And we used to practice cross-curricular learning. I would sit with the English teacher with the child, let them start to write, let the teacher guide them, not to tell them what to write, but allow them to be guided through the process. So that was one method I utilized.
I think you should write that down in your booklets.
For sure. Recording. Yeah, we did record what we'll have them just taught in Beijing. Yeah, that was the biggest
Yes.
issue that we had.
Even and then slow it
And
down.
then translate to English.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think so the music went up, it went there so and it did a
Right.
thing.
But I didn't stop there. We did 3 recordings. The first one was that natural express it, go home and think about it, come back and re-express yourself again with better language, utilizing the terms that should be used. If they didn't get that right, we did the last thing, right? And then you develop it in that way.
I standardized the responses per L. All right. So what happened is I gave them a sentence. If you know the music leaping up in the ear, say the melody was this junk.
Okay, but that's
And then say if you
but
heard,
that's
so then
teaching.
everybody ended up quite similar sentences, but I guess the songs themselves were different. So that's what gave the individuality, right? But I'm letting you know now that you're gonna see a lot of standardized responses. The melody was mainly by step or was conjunct, but that the full stops.
But
I
that
use
is
it, that's what
exactly
we're doing.
it.
So that's what I ended up doing. But you mentioned share your ideas, so I'm just sharing with you what I like that.
Correct. And
Standardize
as
my
I was
answers
saying,
now.
right? Based on that, if I had my book like this, I would write that in there. Yeah, Omar.
Right.
Say,
Good
giant.
morning, everybody. In respect to what Paul would have mentioned, my challenge is not necessarily entirely the CSET program. It is the institution. So as you are within your own individual institutions, you have your own challenges. As I try to rebuild and try to get the vision across to them, what is the best approach after thumping at this wall? No, I just want a little crap. If I'm getting our crap open, was the next step. Because at the same time, as much as the CSEP gives you the performance aspect that all schools want your students to do. So yes, I can tell you yes, but if you want to perform, you can go towards the CSEP. Then at the same time, when you want your program to go to follow certain things, then blinking an eye, turn around and go on again.
So my question is, how can you get a hybrid to happen, right? Whereas you get them because the performance is going to help the CSET. Definitely, if they perform well, that's 38 marks for the SBA component and 32 marks or 36 for the practical. So there's enough marks that you get for performance. Get 30 from this is or close to 30, you almost hitting the ball, you know, right? So to answer your question before Randy gives an opinion. If you have opposition to your program, work your program with your students. Get results. You know, get results from your students. At the end of the day, you are accountable to your creator for what you do. You have decided that you are going to be a teacher. You're going to impart knowledge to these students.
You basically are sell the program. And by doing that, I'll take an example from what we did when my mom was a student. You can remember our thing was we want to be in the paper every single week. We didn't make it to the paper, but that was the thing. We would try to do programs. When Farah came, that was the same thought process we had. And the school became known for music. May not be the best musicians, right? But the things that we were doing were out there, and the board of management started to ask questions. So, okay, Mr. Eastman, so what do you want next? Well, we would like to do such and such. Okay, how can we do that? Put a plan in place, write a proposal, and it will submit proposals every single month. So you got to sell your program. As Brennan said, you got to work it. Make them believe in what you can do. That was just my approach. I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but that was my thought process.
I agree with Randy. You have to push it. One girl will get up and sing at assembly. The one guitar player will get up and do something somewhere. So you sell that one person until that one person becomes two, And then you got a program that is worthy of doing more.
I actually got the biggest room in Princess Margaret. You saw my room right now.
Yes.
That is not from CXC Music.
No, but
Good.
but these things are not in isolation, you know.
Good. So the position is, we had to delve down a lot of the theory that the children were doing because the children hate it. It's the worst thing for them.
You could pass CXC with minimum theory.
I understand that. My students don't really care about CXCs, that's all right. They care about playing. Exam, nah, don't talk to them about exam. This one, gonna play music. And that's what we did at the school. We're gonna play music, that's it. We're gonna play at some place, whatever. And we've got success from that point of view. But when it comes to certificates, it's different from one school to the next.
All right, so Paul, this is where, right? You have an opportunity now to mold the mindsets of these youngsters. Some people get it at 14, some people get it at 40, but they have to get it at some point in time. If they like playing music and they come to play music, you become their shepherd. You have to guide them through life, right? You have to guide them through life. You mold them. Listen, fellas, yeah, we playing here, so, but you know something? Let's look to improve our grammar. Let's look to improve the way we look when we play out together. Let's look, and you work on a lot of civics. You work on, but fellas, you know, in a few years' time, you're gonna be leaving school, and sometimes a little certificate here and there will help. So let me concentrate on getting two. Let me make sure we get the English and something else. You know, be the shepherd.
All of that is being done. All
So
of that is being done.
carry the staff now.
As Omar stated, the structure that you have at your school. Generally, you know exactly your class only for 2 years, 4th and 5th form. There's no upper 5th music at the school. So you have to prepare CXC in 2 years.
So when are you gonna agitate to get it happen? My thing is,
I've
right?
been agitating for 10 years.
But hold on, Paul.
Multiple principals, as she was stated.
Right. But if you get a good cohort of students, right, and work with them, if you want men to bring their bonds to your school and let's liaise with one another and get cross fertilization happening to make these programs happen and make them more viable.
I totally agree with you. I have no issue in terms of the instrumentation. It's just, you know, the mindset of the students towards certification. That goes beyond just the school.
Change too.
That goes just beyond the school. That's the parent, the community, everything itself. So
we got it, right?
Well, I may tell the student, well, yeah.
Don't tell them.
They can help you.
Don't tell them. You're gonna live it.
Right, but I understand.
I think that's what Bernard waiting to tell you, you know.
They've lived the idea that music is something, but that idea CXC has not gone to them because that's right across the board in the school itself.
I just want to know if there's a possibility we could like show the other careers you have in music, like being an arranger and all that.
On the syllabus.
On the syllabus.
And when the syllabus changes, it will be in the new syllabus as well.
Oh, okay. But I'm saying because from my experience, it is because I hear my students say, well, all music is just singing and thinking. So when they try to explain that to them, they're like, when they tell them there are other careers in music, they're shocked.
I can speak to that. So the syllabus is a guide. You know, create what at Parkinson, Human Crawford is called it the alternate curriculum, which we had in music. And it would take that and digress. So you got to provide the knowledge for them and open their minds.
Shalom Paris, he was a music student here. And Shalom Paris knew the name Roger Jordan from the time he was probably a 2nd or 3rd form. Roger Jordan, Roger Jordan, Roger Jordan. Because Roger Jordan is our instrument mechanic. I am sure that most of my students hear about Philip Ford, the organist at St. James Parish Church. They hear about Dave Jackman. They always hear the name Marlin. So much so that 2 years ago, when Marlin did turn up down here to Mark, all the men that they saw like was sing first. Because really and truly, in my day-to-day teaching, I talk about each and every one of you. I know you don't know it and you don't believe it. I talk about each and every one of you. I talk about Calypsonians. Sometimes I will be there and I would decide, well, let me call by. Let me call Matt Fingal. All those things you do because they have to be able, and you call Ronnie Clark, he's at a radio station that is a mainstream music. But you have to big up one another. You have to big up everybody in the profession. They know about Nicholas Branca. They know about the youngsters that are in BCC now doing things and making beats and doing these things. These things are important so that they can see that it is achievable.
That's the other thing. There's a lot of resources online too. I saw the need for production and I created a series which interviews a lot of producers. It's called Behind the Rhythm, so you can check that on YouTube. You can do season 2. You got a lot of things happening that you can go and check online and just pull resources from. Calypso Dreams, interviewing Calypsonians from Trinidad. I'm sure the NCF has a plethora of content on Barbadian Calypsonians as well too. So you go, yeah. Talk, yeah, and create your own stuff too, right?
Now, if I begin by giving you a look forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow, Dave is going to present on the practical component of the SBA side, right? So we'll have a student or two come in and perform, and we will and rationale behind that. And I think that we should be in good graces after that. In addition, tomorrow we'll have our open mic session again. And Roger is going to come at 1 o'clock, do an hour or and a half of composition and arrangement. And he's going to try to tailor it towards what we want at CXC. And then we will all chip in, you know, these are the approaches that we use because we all have our methods and what's not. And we can only grow if we embrace each other's methods and get things right, yeah? Oh, and Dr. Rudder is scheduled to come tomorrow to discuss the I would say the reverting of the dates, because you know over the last COVID years we've been pushing back the exams to June and all kind of folly, but I think they've gone back to the May thing. I remember that music used to be in the first week of May, and all the documentation had to be in by that Friday the first week. That's SBAs and everything. And so the moderations were always done in March. So you would have to determine with you and your moderators. And if you check the structure of things, there are 4 moderators. Philip Ford, John Bryan, myself, and Dave. And you'll realize that there are schools that we separated them into zones. So I do the North Zone, CP, St. Lucie Secondary, Daryl Jordan, St. James, Alexandra, etc. John does the East Coast, Arlene, Grantley, Lodge, etc. Dave does the foundation, South Coast things, and Philip does the central schools. That's the way it's been structured, right? And prior to that, it used to be you go anywhere you were saying. But with this structure, I think it gives a better sense of growth in that, you know, you work with your moderator. And what we've tried to do too is to, in terms of examiners, we find that, you know, we want to include everybody over time. So it's going to come to a little rotation thing. That's going to start pretty soon, where we try to include so that everybody gets a piece of it and thing. And this year, Randy made a brilliant suggestion that even though you may not be an examiner, the registrar has the power to allow somebody that is not an examiner to be there. And we've done that with observation. You come in, you actually get the things and you mark along with the thing because that's part of the training. You do it more and more and more when you become the examiner. anything. And when you go back to your classes and thing, it means that we are all standardized. And that's the nature of being here today. So speaking about standardization, this is Winston Hall's SBA here. For my SBA project, Ronnie Clark was the person assigned for the class to study. After listening and analyzing his music, it was seen that Ronnie Clark explains his basic experiences through his music, and there's truth behind his songs. He is direct with his information about Barbados or related to Barbados, which makes him a true social commentator. The three tunes of Ronnie Clark that I will be analyzing are Wrong Decision, Reading for Pleasure, and The Man They Love to Hate. He's put the links in there. I've directed him to put the links in because prior to COVID, you used to hand in a CD. But that's folly in this day and age. So you put the link and it goes to the YouTube link, right? Yeah, Winston.
That introduction is pretty cool. So my query is, I didn't see it here. So in terms of the grammar or whatever we want to call it, syntax, whatever, do we mark for that too? Or we just say that?
Are you an English teacher?
Pardon me? No. Hold on. People just use there are some persons when certain subjects that you would have the content is there, but because there's grammar issues, you don't get full mark.
Where's that in is that in the rubric?
Hold on. There are subjects that do that at CXC level. All I am asking is if that is the case.
All right.
And that's all you got to.
Okay.
Don't beat me.
When I checked the rubric, I didn't see it. And remember the SBA, if we encourage the students to submit the things early, and we can assist with that over time, then they will have a good report as evidence of their work over time. We as the teachers are there to assist in the guidance and the correction of the grammar. All right, so at the end of the day, you want a good report. Okay, the document share. I guess everybody does that now. I do them in Google Doc. As soon as you start the thing, name the thing, Tyrese Hall, Music SBA, share with me. And because before we had issues with people doing SBAs and not submitting, right now, at least you know that when they write that rationale, you got a mark or two to put on there, right, as evidence. But when they have submitted nothing, it is really difficult to get a man not, right? So all these little things that help to circumvent those processes. Reading for pleasure.
Reading is essential if we are to succeed. For qualifications, reading is a must. For academic intentions, in reading we trust. But there comes a time for moments of leisure, stimulation, and reading for pleasure. But there is one man, ladies locally, have virtually made him a citizen of this country, and his name is Dickie. Eric Jerome, magnificent Dickie, well loved and known. Now they don't want to read the newspaper about violence and crime. White Oak at 350, ambitions on the breadline. The town clerk, the George Lamin, come out graduate of St. John. No words were those Shakespeare, a little Willie can turn them on. They're gonna have Dickie, Eric, Dickie, Jerome, Dickie, the bestseller. Patrons love to read, love to read, love to read. 'Cause Dickie's so hard, Dickie's so hard.
Let's look at the background information first with the Google Doc. So the embedment. Right. So background information. Ronald Clark was born in Germany to a German mother and a Belgian father. He moved to England around age 7 as a teenager. He did performances as a school child around the high school circuit after his parents got divorced. And he really went to town on the information because he had 2 days of videos that he could pull information from. So he had extensive background information going to the I had to ask him to actually cut out some, because for 2 marks, right? When the mark turned out with 3 pages of thing, no. Let's begin paraphrasing and make it concise, right? So around 2002, the man went through a whole life story here, right? And then he speaks about the different songs as well. So let's get into the instrumentation. And he uses the cheat sheet: vocals, lead and background vocals, the horns. He got a French horn there, so but he tell lies. Well, no, you played on that. We were talking about you. I think that's why he put that in. Yeah, we were actually talking about you. Like I said, I talk about all of you, right? So we were actually talking about this girl that is play French horn in not Headliners, Big Show, right? So I feel that that's why that went in. And he goes through, he saw the conga drums, he saw them on the stage with his punka playing and the steel pan and everything that was there in the song, Freedom for Pleasure. So, and then he separated them into the categories. And then I normally, like I said, normally do things in different order, but then at the end of the report, since you get 2 marks for the way the report is compiled, I asked them to try to compile it the way it is in the guide. So rhythmic features comes after. So he goes through rhythmic features, rhythm for pleasure. Pam pa-da, pam pa-da, pam pa-da, pam pa-da. The time signature is got time. Obviously, you realize that he would have gotten assistance with the notation, because I mean, a lot of if we had to really sit down and transcribe it, some of you would struggle at first. You would get it after an hour or so, but you will struggle at first. So the 14, 15-year-old, I don't expect him to think. So you assist with that, but he had to tell me the notes, right? It begins, the beginning of the course is syncopated as seen in figure 2-1 in each phrase, blah, blah, blah. So how many marks would you give him for those rhythmic features that are there? Don't forget, you have the rubric there. So you talk about the anacrusis it begins on. Philip is saying 3. You give him all 3? Winston? You let you react to the game anymore. Oh, the mix and the bridge. That's what we call mixing in practice, right? It would have been nice if he could have notated it as well, but at this level, that's enough. So we conquer that. That's a 3, right? All right, let's move on. Melodic features. The key of the song is E major, and that would have been obviously he had to go and hey, the notes in the first phrase of the band chorus are shown. The range of the melody is wide. Right, tonality, you get the key. Oh, okay. If he had put major, Philip is saying if he puts major, you want the tonality. Major is good. But he zeroes in on the thing because, again, the way we try to, because it is going to become important in the harmonic features later, right? So he speaks about the interval, the lowest note to the highest note of the melody, you know. A tenth. The melody is made up of 4-bar phrases, which we heard. I think that could have gone in formal structure too, with slight alterations. And he refers to figure 2-2. Ba 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 da ba da, ba 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 da da, ba 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 da ba da, ba 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 da da. He could have spoken about repetition. You know, is ba 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 da ba da, ba ba, 4 bars repeated. A motif that is repeated, yeah. So that would those are the things that could be done. But in terms of melodic features, how much would you give the boy there? I think melodic features is about 4. It's 3? The new one is 3, yeah. So okay. Anybody thinks differently? He could have done that. Non-diatonic movement, I don't see any. There wasn't any non-harmonic tones in there. Okay, when I look at this, you could, yes, Marcella. Mm-hmm. All right, so based on what you're saying, you're saying that he could have included that, you know, it is a lot of conjunct movement, et cetera, et cetera. But my question is, and this is always the $1 million question, would you penalize if it isn't there? And that is the $1 million question. Correct. Right. So if it is in there, more the merrier. But as long as he has enough meat, you know, according to the great Norma, get a child the mar. Harmonic features. The pieces in E major, he says again, the band chorus begins in the relative minor, which is C sharp minor. That's true. Yeah. And the first 4 bars and all the phrases are in perfect cadences, and also perfect cadence at the end of the band chorus. Yeah, perfect cadence at the end. And there's a perfect cadence at the end of the verse. So he touches on, let's see if he has anything about the chords. So, perfect cadence. Figure E, I guess, is the verse. In perfect cadence. In perfect cadence, okay. So he touches on them. Marlon says he gives them 0. You give him 2. What's missing? Dissonance and consonants. So my question is, having the standardizing, right? Having seen this now, are you gonna penalize because he didn't have that this is major or minor? I mean in words because it's there. Bernard first, then Winston. Wait, Bernard first.
All right, going
Get
back
the
to
mic in
your,
the meantime.
Going back to your statement before the break about consistency.
Mhm.
When you are doing now my children don't do this. They state the chords that are heard in the piece. They state which ones are major, which ones are minor, which one are primary, secondary, and so on.
Mhm.
So I don't show that
Okay.
in my things, right? But remember, when you started with your instrumentation, you just list all the instruments and then you just put them in the categories.
Mm.
I don't list the instruments. I go straight to the categories,
Which is fine.
right? But if you're doing consistency, I will have to support Philip here in that the child should state which of these are actually majors, which of these are minors for consistency, because you would have done it in the instrumentation section. In the instrumentation section, you stated all the instruments that you see or heard, and then you put them in the category.
Right, and I remember we said.
Why has the child not stated all the chords? No, they got them.
And then put them in categories.
And put them in categories. Why show this? Why show this? Why show this? Which you said earlier, they could call iWeb and tell iWeb, I want your chord chart.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that he knows from iWeb's chord chart which of these is the primary chord and which of these are the secondary chord?
And suppose he is the one that did the course.
Does he still know that which is the primary chord and which is the secondary chord?
All right, let's get another opinion. I see Joel is and then wait, Winston. Winston, you were pregnant with a thought.
All I wanted to, before
It's right.
Bernard gave his point, was that I didn't hear exactly what it was that Philip said, so that I can understand exactly where the thing was going.
Okay. What Philip was saying is that he has the chords, but he didn't state that these are major chords or minor chords being used or primary chords or whatever. So he would deduct a mark.
Two, yeah.
That's
See,
basically in a nutshell what Philip
it's
said.
working. Plus the consonants and dissonance suggestion. That's in harmonic.
Mm. Laura was going to say something earlier.
I would give the child the marks because for me, I think for us as teachers, sometimes we nitpick. And it's there. If it's there and it's right, I give the child the marks. I would err on the side that he knows what are primary chords, because I'm more sure most of us, that's one of the first things we teach when we start teaching about chords. And chord progression is the difference between primary and secondary chords. So I would hope that the child, and I would assume as the teacher that taught the child, that he knows what is a primary and what is a secondary chord. That's
But
just my 2 cents.
looking at the chord progression, I could see E minor and I could see F sharp minor. So he differentiating. But at first looking at it, it had looked like just all major chords, but I could see the difference with the E minor instructed in there and the F sharp
Yeah, but what
minor.
Philip is saying is that he should have said something about it in the writing.
Oh.
That's what Philip is saying. And we're just going around trying to get a consensus.
Right.
And then Marcella?
Once again, if we are going to, we have to agree, right? Because some of us, once again, will go back and say to our children, once you present a chord chart, that will show that you have covered chord types, chord progressions, cadences, and so on. So we just need to be consistent. If we're going to accept the chord chart as a version of getting the marks, or if we will also, we will also accept the written out presentation of the knowledge to show that the child knows the work if they do not present a chord chart along with the written out explanation.
All right, Laura, well, off mic? Oh,
No,
okay.
my quick question is this. Isn't the use of visual aids so that we don't have to fully write out everything? If a student can show me something Do I also need him to explain it to me as well? If a student can say to me, bars 2 and 3, this is an example of the syncopation that I hear, or this is figure 1 shows the syncopation heard throughout the piece of music, or whatever the case may be. Do I need him to go into detail to say? Because he's showing me.
Marcella?
For the avoidance of doubt, because I had a child that did this, and I wasn't completely comfortable because I wasn't sure if they was going to lose a mark. So we did a shape, arrow shape, so that if I was speaking about a plagal chord, then that arrow exactly where it is, because you can superimpose it on the figure. So this is imperfect cadence, this is plagal cadence on the thing. I know it's not necessary, but it made me comfortable that the child would not have lost that mark.
Okay, so as Randy's there saying that it is a good practice, but the burning question is it necessary at this level? And that's not me making a statement, it's me throwing out a question, because we have to determine. Let's go to Paul first, then Joel, and then Winston.
Yes, I think that the student actually noted about minor chords in the harmonic structure already, you know. He also spoke about C sharp minor in the band chorus at the very top. This first point was C sharp minor, therefore the student knows that it's C sharp minor there. For the first one there. The piece is in E major, band chorus begins in the relative minor, which is C sharp minor. You come down to the actual piece, we see the C sharp minor there. So he already identified the minor, which bars has the minor already. So
I fill up, because that's a very important point. In some of the reports, the information does not always fall in the category that it is, but it may be somewhere else in the report. And you have to pull that information into your marking, because it is the award of mark, not the penalty of the. Talk in the mic, man.
When it comes to the layout of the work, that's where the child will lose the mark. So as I would have learned at UE, you don't penalize twice. If you penalize it somewhere, don't penalize it somewhere else again. That's one.
But Paul said just now that the layout, he laid it out.
No.
This thing that we have here, chord types would be on the harmonic features, and not, because he gave his statement on the melodic features.
What I do when I have a CXC class, to be safe, I always call my moderator to find out what it is that's acceptable to you. Because I may think I want it this way, I may think it can go this way, but then we'll say, moderator, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I see from the students. You accept that, yes or no? So that's what I do. So my moderator probably tell herself, them just call me too often during this time of the year. But to avoid doubt, I call my moderator and I operate to suit from there. Because when they see the SBA, ain't a guessing no more.
No, that is why we are standardizing people's. Dave.
I don't think that we need to I understand everything that's being said, but it's not a university paper. Let's just remember that, right? And there are certain, so for example, we see that there are things there that are meritable. So we see that the person has gone beyond just talking about one cadence. They have tried to explain different cadences throughout the song. Then you've seen different chord types and you automatically see a chord progression. Therefore, you give the marks.
I want to challenge Dave on that one. It is a university paper, but let's say the scenario is in this harmonic feature, they did not do the description here, but they did a graphic representation. You still have to label the table. At least the table should be labeled in such a way that it says, right, this table represents such and such harmonic feature.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't say that you can't
lay out certain things and label certain things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the kind of detail that some of us are talking about might not be so necessary. So the same way how we talked about the melodic features and the rhythmic features, we were able to pick certain things out from, they've given us a list. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every single thing that they have listed there will come, because there's certain things. I was going to go back to the melodic features a little later on and say that I've seen people put dot to dot kind of graphs in their thing, and that is absolutely fine. It's absolutely no wrong. There are people that can figure, okay, but I know that there, dot, dot, and come down there. And we've actually seen that in the paper one as well, where you've had dot to dot notation and you had to figure that out. So that is absolutely fine. We have also seen that in if you look at the melody that's right there, musical notation, that's rhythmic and melodic feature right there. So we are saying that you are picking out certain things from within the rubric and applying it there, but you don't have to be so hardcore with it. That's all I'm saying. You have certain things that you would know that the paper is still academic to some degree, but I mean, not so heavy. If you understand what I mean, I hope I am a little bit clear.
This is how I feel about it. Right now, I feel confused because originally I would think that a student that would produce something like that showing a card chart and so on would get more marks. But now it seems like if the student is going to be penalized heavily because they did not are marked down because they did not explain certain things. So I really and truly don't know how I should guide my students. So I just tell them explain or show a chart.
Right. You asked the question with what Marcella said, really, labeling the thing where the cadences were. And you asked if it's necessary at this stage. If this was not a CXC and this person was doing, this was a graded paper, grade 5, they would label it. Go back to show the chord chart for a minute. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you can count out. The person said after a certain number, you have this cadence or that cadence. What's wrong with putting the label on the chord chart?
Hold on. If the child said that there's a perfect cadence at the end of the chart, and the chart that is produced don't show a perfect cadence, can you mark? Because you're stating that this is what is on the chart. But then when you check the chart, it is not there. You can't give the mark even though a chart is there. The chart has to reflect what is given. So in the case, so then go back to what you were saying earlier.
So all I was saying, let me be clear, right? I was saying that when I look at this and I see the axis of consonants and dissonance, right? And I don't see that there. You understand? I know. And I see chord types and I don't see it explicitly there. Right. But I'm not going to argue strongly about this. I said is what I think. And if the consensus is that I am being too hard, I will concede.
That chart could have been saying C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, B, E, 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 A, B. But the moment, the fact that you can see there's a M, common M in there, the fact you can see a capital A in there, the fact you can see there's a common M by the thing in there, it means that the child has already, we as musicians, know that that common M means minor.
What I'm saying is that we as musicians know that. Why I would want, and I said is I will go with the consensus, the student to tell me, give me an example of what they think is a minor and major, because I'm not sure the student understands that. And just putting it on the sheet doesn't mean they understand it. It means they copy it from someplace or somebody, something like that. That's all I'm saying. But I will go with the consensus. So we don't have to argue this point much longer.
And I think if we do what you're saying, it means that every SBA that comes in front of us, we're going to be wondering if the child actually did it versus if somebody did it for the child. Because depending on what is seen on that SBA, it comes back down to someone did this for the child or the child did this. And as you said earlier, Philip, what is going to set the pigeons and the cats, whatever, apart is when they sit down in that list, in that exam, and they complete that paper one that is basically the SBA, because they're going to listen to music. They will have to identify different things. Then that it will have to determine it. But we can't, whatever is given, we have to accept that the teachers with integrity would have gone through the students and provided guidance. If not, we're going to question every SBA that comes in front. The moderators will then have to question every SBA. And that becomes a problem because at the end also, the moderators also write a report about the teacher.
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, I would give the child the marks. Parkinson, my children don't have the capacity to, in 2 years, do a like CXC. So what I've been doing, particularly because of COVID, because I have, you know, a pretty good relationship with the principal and deputy principal and so on, I put to them, well, the years that we have lost, maybe we can bring back the students and so on, and they've obliged me. But I still have to put a structure in place, like, for example, because I know you got Marty SBA, where, like Shamika, for example, who's with me now on my lawn, I would assign the students to them, like, because I don't want to be too involved in the whole, you know what I'm saying? But I have to give them that assistance, because without that assistance, they make it pass. Their capacity, they really cannot handle that load like that. So I have to aid them along the way and aid them along the way. Yeah. That's what I do with it.
I wanted to talk about, you say I can't mark them too hardly or whatever the case may be. So just help me to understand, right? Let me give you a scenario. I don't know if this is a CSC scenario or CSET scenario. I was teaching major skills to a second form at Comamere, right? I think our second or third, right? So we did the major scale, the work on the major scale formula. And the question was in a test, it was, write, notate C major scale ascending, right? It was worth 2 marks. This child went first in the third space, C, D, E, F, came down to the second line, and went G, A, B, C. No sharps, no flats, right? Good. The question was, write a C major scale ascending, right? What we giving that child? We giving each other 2 marks. We giving each other 1. We giving each other not. What we giving each other for that? The child went third space. The question was, right, good. The child went third space. C, ascending D, E, F. Say, I don't know the rest of the ledger lines. Come back down to the second line. G, and continue ascending. G, A, B, C. And so the major scale began on this third space and ended on the third space. Do you say there's that C major scale ascending, and do we give the milk for that? That's a good question. That's a good question. That child get no. I give that child no. Okay, I will hold my blows. I am a teacher and I am learning. And I hold my blows, but I telling you why give the child. I sat down with the child afterwards. I said, listen to me, understand what you meant. You understand? And then the corrections, we went through the corrections in class and we worked through it together. And I don't believe the child will do it again.
Most people are going to go with normal going. Get each child the mark. All right. Let's move on. So we have the harmonic features. Formal structure. He says it's very strophic. And then he lays it out. And since I corrected the SBA, I think it's pretty much because at first he was counting in 4-4. And we assisted with that, counting 2-2, et cetera, et cetera. You know, those are common things that come up. Yeah.
Made a very good point there. They counted it in 4-4. Hence, the notation is done in 4-4. And then following through, if you were to count 4, it's correct.
Yeah, because when we do the production, we really do it in 4. But when we notate calypso, we notate in 2.
Because then my question comes back to when we talk about the whole marking of the SBA. So really and truly that child grade will be affected when it comes to meter. But producing,
why is it affected when it comes to meter? Because I thought there was a question on a CXC paper, I think it was 2013. It had Pumped Me Up as the example, and they asked what the meter was. And they wanted the answer was 4-4. But really and truly,
we got that split too.
I mean, we notate it as cut time. So it would have been duple time. So CXC is very ambiguous where these things are concerned. And that is why, whether or not it is notated in 4-4 or 2-2, it can be read, it can be played. It is just a matter of common practice that we do 2-2.
All right, my question has to do now with us as the teacher who's guiding. So when, like in your thing there just now, when the child comes to me with something and I had to do the correction so that when it goes to guys like y'all, it is already corrected. But in my marking, I don't give them, right, I don't get, although I have fixed it for you, although I have fixed it going to you, when I present my marks orders reflect that it didn't come to me fixed. How do we deal with that? No.
No. You see, that's the thing. The purpose of the SBA is for the child to submit and resubmit and resubmit and resubmit until it is right. The SBA is supposed to give them that platform. It is not a punitive exercise. You know, it's not a one-off thing. There's listen, buddy, go back to the drawing board. You go, listen, you can't hear steel pan in there. Go and write it now. The final mark is the important thing. And I can tell you something, right? Randy just showed me something that very. You see, we can't hear with the phone. You know that our SBA grades in music in Barbados are down in like 34, 33% or something. So, jeez, all right.
Had asked me to share by school. I don't want to do that because I don't want to feel, or make anybody feel victimized. Our overall failure rate right now is 36%. Of the remaining persons that would have passed, you have a 20% average of persons who do not sit the exam, which leaves 42% that actually pass.
In 2023, that going to change people's?
And not only that, as compared to all other CXC subjects, we are in the higher percentage or percentile of failure rate. That ain't good.
In the Caribbean.
In the Caribbean. And when you look at the profile 1, 2, and 3, the SBA is profile 3, right?
Yeah.
That is where everybody's getting the marks. Profile 1 and 2 ain't happening. There are no grade 1s, which we know already, which is music history. 2% getting grade 2. 2% getting grade 2. 42% getting the grade 3 pass, which is because of the SBA, which is not good.
Good. So, yeah, Laura.
This leads back to the marking. And I don't know if Dave and Marlon will be willing to back me up, but based on what I see, when we mark CXC, the onus can be said that we mark hard.
When I looked at what they want the students to be able to speak about, I saw modes. I saw descriptions of, hold on, they want the students to
is a major key?
I'm just giving examples of when you read this information, you as a teacher know saying, oh, she got mark this. She's over this challenge saying, so you do get a bit sensitive when you don't read all these requirements that these will read. But you know, there's a, you get concerned. These people,
guidelines, man.
I telling you, boy, when you don't read them, what they're asking, you begin to want a music history, hit the page, you like, wait. That means people want real high level. So you start marking accordingly, and then that may happen. I'm not saying it's right.
And that's why we are here today to standardize.
You asking for a lot on that paper.
Yeah, I agree with that. When you look at the syllabus is really packed. So you go looking at it the first time is that you got to include
Well,
this, you
sir,
got to include that. It's a
You
lot.
teach it for second form.
And the next thing that I wanted you to comment on or give more guidance on. So you have pump me up. We do pump me up in cut time. We talk about soakers cut time. On the CXC paper, they wanted the child to say 4-4.
Correct.
What was the outcome of that?
That if you had, I don't think cut time was an option. It was not an option.
2-2 was not an option?
I don't think, no, in that paper, no. It was
Okay.
not an option on that day. But I made a note of it because I've sat in every single CXC paper one.
CXC needs to make an effort to standardize across the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We know that we mark hard, but we know that other Caribbean territories do a lot of foolishness.
I want to say this. CXC is not going to standardize music.
We know that. And that is why we can do it and we can improve our product.
A couple
We can do
years.
that. I made that decision a long time ago. We have to improve our product for us and we have to set a bar, but we have to assist our students. And yeah.
But I would like to say this also. A couple of years back, well, it was during COVID, when we had this meeting. I think some of us were at this meeting. And CXC took the opportunity to go through a CXC paper. And many of those questions on the multiple choice, when it came to history, there was a big argument.
Listen.
Yeah, CXC themselves didn't even know what the answer was in the end. But yet still, there's something there that somebody had to take that to get marked. When it came,
Joel, I can tell you, right?
It was one on Negro, it was Negro spiritual music, and there was also one on rare, in terms of Jamaica, reggae music, and there was an argument about the fact that there's a Trinidadian who was part of the reggae, whatever, and people argue for or not. When they talk about where the Negro spiritual came from, it was an argument via Africa versus America, and it came back down to the fact that it's depending on where you went and studied and what history you were taught. This we teach your children. So CXC themselves don't even know the answers. Sorry to say that.
All right, hold on a second.
Actually.
I don't know. Randy was talking about the statistics and the numbers and stuff, but I don't think it's something that we realize here. A student can only get grade 1 if he's entered as an advanced student.
All right.
So basically for us, in my opinion, a grade 2, a child that entered that beginning and intermediate, a grade 2 is technically, for me, a 1. Because we seem to forget that part.
All right. So Dave, tomorrow when this boy starts to play, we're going to determine if he is if he's intermediate, beginner, or advanced, right? Those are the things that we really need to standardize. And right, advanced grade 5 or grade 4 and with potential. Now, tomorrow as well, Dave is going to we're going to standardize the rudiments for the drums that we always overlook. That kind of thing. And the next thing that we're going to look at tomorrow, Dave going to lead the charge on this again, is the those vocal exercises. And we're going to try to come up with a set of things that we can do for the 3 levels.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want to standardize that too, because Philip, I don't know if you remember the year we went to Notes of Praise, and this lady, a young lady, sat on the piano. When this girl started playing, I think it was there too, a classical piece that was so difficult. I think they had her categorized as intermediate, but the girl was playing an advanced piece.
Here's my question. How then, after doing all of this practical and marking, how does this SBA aspect comes into play? Hear me out. The child plays, and we think this child is intermediate or beginners, right? But then, when the SBA comes in, we see work that is produced to say, well, this child technically has to be understanding grade 5 to produce what is there.
Yeah, but you may be understanding grade 5, but you're gonna be able to execute grade 5 on your instrument or voice.
That's the point I'm making, Pernell. So remember they said just now that depending on what level goes in on that performance information,
It's performance.
that's going to determine if the child actually really and truly gets that 1 or 2. Because a child can get 20 out of 30 for that SBA. But because then now they put as the intermediate or beginner, really and truly, that child can get grade 1. But the performance is an A. The SBA is 20 out of 30. And then the actual paper 1, that child gets half the mark. That should be a 1.
All right, so that is what we need to mitigate.
I was reminding some of the younger people that when CXC first started, you could enter a student as a performer, a composer, arranger, or an appraiser, and the marks would be weighted to suit. I don't know why to stop that. That was a brilliant thing. I don't know where to stop that for.
Is there any particular reason why the listening and appraising profile is more heavily weighted than the performance or composition? Because the listening and appraising profile is 40%, while the composition and performance is 30%.
Our approach to this CXC this year has to yield some improvement. Try to get your students, and David is going to touch on it tomorrow, the level of playing. Let's try to up that. Let's try to up the SBA standard so that when they hit off the jetty for that listening and appraising paper that's worth 40%, that they can swim home before the shark devours them.
I just want to add that I think I remember part. So yes, I've always questioned that why it is that everybody has to do the same level theory, same level analysis, but then your performance is what determines whether you are entered at foundation, intermediate, or advanced. I've always questioned that. I've always gotten no answer. So I will continue to just say that writing on what Pernell said, if it is that we can continue to encourage the children to up their performance level, because even when you mark them at SBA level, between that time of SBA, well, this was pre-COVID. Since COVID, we know that moderations happen around the same time as the exam. But pre-COVID, if it was that you had marked a child and called that child intermediate, but by the exam, they were playing much more. They improved so much more that you up their level to advance, then there's absolutely no problem with that.
With our discussions, let us look at how we're going to incorporate the music history. And I touched on it this morning because I said when I do genre, I do music history. I said in the classical period, the main thing was the symphony. So in the symphony, you had the symphony orchestra. So these are the instruments. But the form of the symphony, the first movement, you had the exposition, your development, your recapitulation. What do we mean by that? You expose these two themes. Show what you can do as a composer with these two themes. And then you're going to recap the two themes, both in the tonic. And that was first movement form. The fugue was, subject, answer, free counterpoint going on with the answer happening, etc., etc. So you bring in all that formal structure thing but you know something? You have to find what works for you as a teacher and implement it and exploit it. Textual features. So I think we conceded that we were going to follow normal with the melodic features and the harmonic features there. Expressive features is around 80 BPM, which is andante. The performance is mainly legato. For dynamics, the song is forte throughout. You can hear the boy, the bars? All. Any. And he didn't go into pretty sentences. He used the language that is available to him. Right? Genre. The genre is calypso. The typical calypso beat is behind it. He could have said more about what was a typical calypso beat, but for Walmart, I ain't gonna kill you. He mentioned it as a calypso. So textural features. The band chorus is mainly homophonic with the chords and the horns playing the melody. Playing the melody. In the verse, again, punctuation. In the verses are mainly homophonic, but there is call and answer between the chords and the same with the chorus bridge monophonic. The grammar there bad, boy. Right. So the band chorus is mainly homophonic. Pam pa da, that's the melody, and it's supported by chords. Homophonic. In the verses, there is mainly homophonic, the voice, and you have the chords underneath. But there's some call and answer. Da 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 da, pam pam, da 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 da, pam. So there's call and answer between. And then there's a bridge, which is monophonic. I will go hear that again now. Just to see if there was just either the thing and the chords out.
I would give the mark just for saying it's homophonic.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask. Because for me,
just for saying it's homophonic.
I would say merely homophonic. I may even get them to explain what homophonic is so that it shows their knowledge. All right, good.
Right, so we heard that, right? We got that. Fella mentions the general scope of the thing is mainly homophonic. Why I go into a little more detail again, remember, I'm using it as a teaching tool so that when he goes to write his composition, he can be homophonic here and he can say, well, look, let me use a line here, so just by itself and be monophonic and thing. Right? Socio-cultural significance is 4 marks. Geez, Brad, the man write the thesis though. As Paul Ford was saying, we don't go and sort out Bruce and St. John. You know, this is where the difference comes in, but we ain't gonna penalize. I think that generally the layout is decent and the information is pretty much in categorized as opposed to being all over the place. And so you should get the 2 marks, and those marks are there as gifts for organization, right? Gifts. Yeah, Joel?
Can we go back to rhythmic features?
Rhythmic features.
Rhythmic features. When we look at the detail mark scheme, we have this thing, characteristic figures. What are we looking at or looking for here? Characteristic figures.
What else is there beside that? Because I'm not reading it.
Besides characteristic figures, they have things like meter, syncopation, etc.
So you characteristic. What's the characteristic figure of this? Look at the motif. Pa pa da pa pa da. Pa pa da. Yes, it's syncopated, but that is the building motive. That is the characteristic of the thing. It is built upon this thing being repeated a number of times. Those are characteristic features.
Right. So this is what I'm thinking, like what Laura's here saying. When I see characteristic figures, I'm thinking, what is it about this particular style of music that helps us identify that this is this particular music they said it is? So if it's reggae, what are the characteristic figures of reggae? Because it comes on the rhythmic features. So I'm thinking about how the drum, in terms of the drum groove, where the snare falls, where the kick falls. If it was soca, what is the notation? What is the rhythmic feature? What's the rhythmic characteristic figure about this particular genre that the child can identify that is what it is? That's my understanding of what I think.
This is my interpretation. I bet you guys maybe the discussion will
help us all today.
happen and help us all. So when I first started doing SBA's, John Bryan helped me a lot, and that's how he had to explain it to me. So in other words, if a student is doing spooge, and let's say one of the pieces is spooge, then Spooge has characteristic figures, the cowbell, the dotted baseline, or the dotted. To me, that would be a characteristic figure of Spooge. So, but the question would be now, does all music have characteristic figures? Call all genres, I don't know. So we asking here.
So
baselines are
Exactly.
So you gotta look at certain things.
So you gotta look at other things.
Syncopation is one.
Correct. So whatever it is for a particular style of music, because if, for example, you may have a song that's written in reggae, but when you check out, sorry, it is labeled as reggae, I should say, not written in reggae. But then when you check out what the drums are playing, it's like, but that's not reggae. How do you know? How do they know it is reggae? What else are you listening for that identifies it as reggae? So that's what I interpreted characteristic figure as. So not necessarily just the lyrical content, but what is happening musically. Because rhythm is going to come from the melody, rhythm is going to come from the drums, rhythm is going to come from the bass line, and even rhythm is going to come from how the chords are played. And because of all of those, you can identify what style of music it is. That's my interpretation of.
That is a strong interpretation.
My interpretation is what is the rhythm that's characteristic of that specific song, right? Some songs, not all, but some songs have very distinctive rhythms that you can say this is characteristic of this is right through the song or whatever. That's my interpretation.
Whoa.
I just
You're saying song versus genres. Yes. So
Yes, ideally individual song.
Let me put a pin there. So let's hear Dave, and then let's debate that.
I would like to posit that if it is that we are saying, I think that it should be up the song, the characteristic figures of the song. However, you can be comparative. So for example, if it is that we are talking about spooge, reggae, etc., and in this song you are hearing this ostinato, pretty much, that is characteristic of spooge or reggae or whatever, you can state that as well. So you show it there and say this is whatever, which is characteristic of spooge. But if I go and do the same GJ worth, net worth, whatever advertisement, how I can write the characteristic figure of the style, right? So this is why I think that is of the song. But if it is that it is also characteristic of the style that you have mentioned, then you can mention that. I think that that's even more impressive.
I got a spot to throw in the room in terms of the how is genre defined. Bernard, I always talk about that. Huh? Right. And genre is always defined by the rhythmic structure. Not necessarily, because I see a man talking about R&B melody, and there's no such thing as an R&B melody. It's a melody. It's that the rhythm is being played in R&B.
Then she don't ask me a question like, Mom, how is this reggae and this calypso? What makes this reggae and what makes this calypso? And doesn't it come onto the word
Rhythmic structure,
which is a characteristic of? So this is, in other words, when you describe you, what makes you? Your characteristics make you Randy. Correct. So
yeah.
So if all right, now let me take it. Let me take a classic one drop song, but you play it with an R&B beat. You still have the reggae strum. Is it still reggae? You slow it down completely. Is it still reggae? R&B drum pattern playing underneath. You change the strum from a piano tone to maybe a rose, but you still got that chirp.
But you go back to
that frog on top of it. Also fancy chorus.
Check what Dave said earlier too. Dave said then no, based on that particular song, you can hear elements or characteristics of other things coming out in there. So again, that's why when a child say that this is in the song. So if it was the moderator, that would not have been acceptable to me, as opposed to saying this is in a sound, but also identify in the sound where it is, so that I am sure that the child has been able to correctly identify what it is, right? So what Laura said earlier, I give that example of if I had a Chinese person standing up, this is not racist. If I had a Chinese person, if I had an Indian, if I had a white man standing up, I asked what are the characteristics for you to determine which ethnic background you think this individual is from. That's what what I take. Because based on what you describe on that person, you're saying that is either Indian or Chinese versus that is a white man versus that is a man from wherever the case may be. So your characteristics helps determine who you are, until you open your mouth, then that shows off everything. So you have something that's foundational. You can't take it away.
Yeah. And some genres are known for doing certain things. For example, if I ask, you know, we know that a minor chord, you can add a 9 on a minor chord, generally speaking, but diatonically speaking, it is against the rules to put people still generally follow the rules, but what I'm trying to say is specifically speaking, some people still follow the guidelines, but some people don't. And people have been breaking some rules longer. So for example, if I play, right, and I play in a minor 9 chord, I usually play on the 6 chord, I usually play on the 2 chord. Those are the general rules. But if I play a minor chord, if I play a minor 9 on the 3rd, almost nobody does that, right? Only one genre of music you see people do it is R&B, right? R&B and that deep fusion jazz really men do not care, right? Really men into the new, they're pushing the boundaries and they're into that new song, right?
Music is becoming more and more complicated for me. Let me speak for me when it comes to analyzing, because again, when we speak about these basic rules, then you have the persons who bend the rules or break the rules. Then eventually, when a child is faced with something, but sir, you say don't, but sir, don't do this, but it is acceptable. So you ask the child to write chord progression, adding chord tones, adding passing notes, and adding additional things, and you tell them, but no, right?
No, explain why you do it. Tell me what you're doing and put it down on the sheet that Marlon can see it when she starts the mark.
To me, I think this arrangement and composition thing comes back down to a lot of subjectivity. Because in your mind, when a child writes something and you see it, and you help guide the child, you think they have a masterpiece based on the rubric. But then when you see the grade returns from CXC, you want to know what the hell happened at that level of marking. I'll give you a perfect example. I taught a student from Harrison College, and I taught my Lester Vaughan students. The approach was no different between the Harrison College student and the Lester Vaughan student. When the grade return for the Lester Vaughan student versus the Harrison College student, if it was a different person, I would have called out CXC publicly. But at the end of the day, it would have to come back down to who marked those arrangements and compositions. There needs to me, I think there need to be a lot more objectivity in marking rather than what may appear to be subjectivity in marking.
So there's a rubric. We have a rubric, right? And a rubric, there's a part of the rubric that speaks to scoring, recording, and reflection. Now, for me, if a child brings me a score, well, I forget a candidate and the score is neat, I can read it, it's followable, there's no mistakes, etc. The maximum you get is 5, right? The child, there's nothing wrong with recording. The recording was taken straight from the finale stuff, right? Should the child not get the 5 marks? There's nothing wrong with the recording. That's my point. If I can follow along the score is neat, legible, I can follow the everything is where the child should get the 5 marks, right? Reflection is a little difficult because reflection pretty much speaks about you, what you did to do this, etc. If that is on point and everything inside that makes sense and I can hear it, should the child not get the 5 marks? And then sometimes you get a really good arrangement and the reflection just says 2 minor, and it might be one in pieces where I might, I like Western type music as a classical person, but then when I get to reflection, the reflection is so well written that everything that the child or whoever says, I hear it. I can go back and read through and say, oh, okay, so this part is supposed to represent water falling, and you can feel that imagery, etc. It's like the child marks.
That is, and that's where I was going to head to, because
so the Lester Vaughan school students No. It is all well articulated and it is there. The most imaginary mind in here, imaginative mind in here is me. I can hear a sound, I can put the imagery to it, I can put the music, and I make sure these students get it, right? Hold on a minute, sir. So it hurts me or hurts us to see those monkey things come back for as results for their arrangement and composition, where I just go to other schools and hear and see, and then I hear the grades and get back. I know sometimes the marking comes down to the school.
Hold on. I heard, right, that a student submitted a composition. And when it go out there at CXC, one of the markers take it and look at it. This composition too good, man. The teacher had to do that and throw it aside. I heard that just today. So markers, was it one of you? So, hold on.
Marley, you want to speak on behalf of yourself? Yes or no, Jess? I don't know what you said, Jess. No. Yes. So you want to say that? Marlene said that. Well, I heard it from Marlene. She said that when she was doing the last set of papers, that she did not even, she hardly even saw a Barbadian paper. Right? So to your point, it may not even be a Barbadian marking the papers.
I think you're missing what you're saying all the time, you know.
I did not miss it. I just made a statement.
I do not care who marks the paper, who is marking the paper. My concern is there don't seem to be objectivity. Regardless as to if the paper is being marked in Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad.
The word is consistency.
Right.
And I was always querying consistency. For years, I've queried consistency.
Right, but the thesis statement that you made is I don't care what nobody say. It got to come down to do something with the school. I was just addressing that statement that you made, which was the thing that you pieced everything that you said before with.
Yes, good evening. I would also like to interject. I am also a Lessavon school teacher, and I also used to mark arrangements and compositions. But the question I would like to ask Marlene and Dave and Laura, who I know who still marks now, is before when I used to mark and we used to come together in a forum like this, we had standardization. Where we get those pieces, we used to sit down and trash it out and discuss it and so on. In the online forum, if that's how y'all are marking, now what happens?
In the online environment, people still come together and mark. There is a sample that is already marked by the supervisory team, and you come together and you thrash those out as well. And then the same thing like what used to happen there, where the supervisory team had marked, and then when the assistant markers come in and you mark, and then the supervisory team say, okay, well, this is the mark I gave. And you know, sometimes it can be influential on either side, and the mark is changed. It's the same thing. It's just that it's done online. It's the same thing. Right. And this year it was face-to-face. They went back face-to-face because that was a challenge of the past couple of years when they wanted to mark online. Then you ended up being in your own space and marking. We thought that was very unfair. So we went back to face-to-face this year, and we are hoping that CXC will allow people to mark face-to-face again next year, because in doing that, you have more objectivity. We have more objectivity because you have more persons there, and you see like how you used to mark in peers and all that kind of stuff, and then somebody else comes and mark behind. You have a similar way where we mark and then there's somebody else that comes and mark behind you and all that kind of stuff and checks. So that happens.